we'll talk about a little about who I am. So when I first started, I went to university, not this university, another university. And when I graduated in 2002, I had my wealthy cousin, not the wealthy barber, but my wealthy cousin sat me down and he goes, Andre, it's time that you learn how to invest and save money. So he introduced me to the wealthy barber and he goes, read this, and then after you're done, let's talk. So I did that. I read the wealthy barber and it was a really good book. It really was. It introduced me to the concept of saving and investing. So after I read that book, I got hired in the corporate world, which was Loblaw companies, as a pricing analyst. So all the pricing that you see in Loblaws, I was in charge of putting those prices on. So I'd go to competitive stores, Walmarts and other grocery chains, and I would see what their prices were, and I would try to be competitive. And I would do, cost-benefit analysis and stuff. Yeah, who are you kidding? I just priced Nutella, that's what I did. So while I was in Loblaws, I was reading more books. I was going to chapters and reading more books about real estate, and I came across Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure many of you have as well. And that to me was, my changing moment. I picked up a few properties, and that's when my new career began, and I became a real estate agent. And as I became a real estate agent, I started helping people with investment properties because I was an investor, so it sort of just came naturally to me to help people. Now, the first time I invested in a property was a massive lesson. It was a joint venture partnership that I took on, and it went to pieces. Fraudulent stuff happened, you name it, not good. So my first time, not a good time. I was excited, I was ready to go. I ended up purchasing 11 properties in all sorts of places in Canada, from Edmonton, Port Colborne, Hamilton, Aurelia. Even though I was helping clients in Toronto, I was still focused on personally investing outside of Toronto. And that's the part that I realized after was a mistake. It was good at the time because it was affordable, it was cheap. My goal was to own 35 properties. 35. Why? Because each of those properties would have been duplexes, each cash flowing about $200 a month, so that would have equated to $7,000 a month of monthly cash flow, which is the goal that I had to become financially free. But this was crazy because I was essentially married to 11 different joint venture partners. And out of all the challenges I've experienced, joint venture partnerships were probably the biggest one. Not managing tenants, not buying the properties, not renovating them, but managing the joint venture partnerships. And then I had an aha moment. As I was getting ready to get married in 2010, I was looking for a coach to help me build my portfolio to reach that 35 properties. And I went through, interviewed 6 different coaches, and one of them, I was like, you know what, I want this coach. And his name is Philip McKernan. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of him, but he changed my life. I told him, I'm hiring you because I want to buy 35 properties. I want to get rich. And as time went on, he didn't jump to the conclusions, like, what are you doing? Like, it took him 6 months to say, Andre, why do you want 35 properties? I said, well, financial freedom, of course. What other reason is there? Yeah. He just said, no, you don't need that. But if you want it that bad, if that's truly the reason why you want it, then I can help you get there. But I'm telling you, you won't be happy, you'll get sick, and you'll probably be divorced. And it was around that time that I actually said, oh my goodness, like, this is probably not the right thing I'm doing. It's not the real reason for trying to achieve 35 properties. What was my real why? He was trying to get that out of me. So this led me to believe that I no longer need 35 properties. All I need is 3 or 4. And I even narrowed it down to my new philosophy, which is the one and done philosophy. If you just get one good quality, solid property, that will lead you to a very healthy nest egg for you and your family. Now, not to say you don't need maybe 2 or 3 or 4, but if you're looking for an empire, I would challenge you as to why you really want that. So going through this process has provided me with a lot of experience and getting to know an area. I ended up streamlining my business from outside of Toronto to inside Toronto, where I was actually helping my clients. So today, where am I? I'm actually helping investors buy and, more importantly, create investment properties. And this is the reason why I do everything. It's my family. And there's nothing more, nothing less. Still today, I get off track, and I need to be put back on track because we all get carried away. We all kind of get off our path. We need to get put back on, but this is the reason. So I was thinking over with Ming. I was like, hey, what's the intention of the day? Is it to teach you guys the secrets to getting rich quick? Is it teaching you different strategies, like the secret sauce? What are we here? What are we here for? As I alluded to before, I want to know what your why is. You need to know what your why is. And I'm not here to start preaching or pretending like I know it all. But one thing that I did learn is when I went to a whole week retreat, and they told me at the end of this retreat, we don't expect you to have a life-changing moment where it's going to turn you 180 degrees. It's going to change you. We just need you to shift 3%, just 3%, maybe one insight that you'll gain from today, one, that will change you just a tad, because in the long term, that gap will widen and widen, and it'll be better for you. So if you can get one thing out of today, that's our goal. Hopefully you will. Are we going to teach you how to invest in a certain property and how to analyze them? Well, not really. We will show you some properties, but that's not our main goal. Our main goal is to focus on the fundamentals, which is what Ming is going to get to. He'll talk about the macro, I'll go into the micro, and then you'll enjoy all the wisdom from all our speakers today. All right, so Ming talked macro level, I'll be talking micro. We're going to be talking about what to buy and where to buy it. So what does Toronto have to offer? One size doesn't fit all. So you can be an independent contractor, you can be a stay-at-home mom, you can be a CEO of a company, you can be a person that has a family of 6. Everyone's different. So when you want to paint Toronto as a whole with one paintbrush, it just does not work. The next slide I'm going to show you is a big matrix that we've created. So let me just get to it then. So this is a matrix. It might be a little bit hard for you to see, but we've created about 7 different investment strategies here. We go from investing in a small town to pre-construction condos, to resale condos, turnkey small income properties like duplexes, triplexes, to creating your turnkey small income property, to purchasing a turnkey large property, which is 6 units or higher, to advanced strategies such as the BRRRR method. BRRRR method stands for buying, renovating, renting, refinancing, and repeating. To 4+1 conversions. 4+1 conversions are, as of right in Toronto, you can build a 4-plex on the property and build a laneway or garden suite in the back. We call it the 4+1 conversion. To creating walk-up condos. And we're gonna have speakers who are gonna be talking about those specific strategies today. And then we can reference how the tenant profile looks like for each of these strategies. We can talk about the short-term and long-term headaches that are associated with these strategies. The short-term, long-term return on investments with these types of strategies. How affordable are they? The pros and cons of each, and who is this strategy for? And then the overall rating. I'm not going to go through every single cell because Ming took up all the time and I don't have time to do that now. But what I will say is that when we categorize something as an F or a D, it's not because it's horrible or we don't recommend it. It's just based on our experience there could be more challenging tenant profiles in a small town versus maybe a turnkey condo. Or the affordability is horrendous when it comes to advanced strategies, but if you want to purchase a pre-construction condo or in a small town, it might be a lot more affordable. So this gives you an overall view of what we consider each of these strategies. Any questions before I go to the next slide? Because I know it is complex, I don't want to go too much into detail. Yes?
Which category would like a single family rental or single family home rental get?
That would probably lie in the condo, resale condo, in many ways. But single family homes would probably not be an investment that we would recommend in Toronto for that matter, because it just wouldn't make a lot of sense for cash flow reasons. Maybe in smaller towns, yes. So that's where I would categorize that. So it doesn't matter what investment strategy you focus on, these are the three pillars that we are going to be focusing on: location, tenant profile, and building your team. So as Ming spoke about the economic fundamentals, we narrowed it down to Toronto. And why Toronto? Because being as close to the financial hubs, the entertainment districts, the cultural landmarks, high-ranking public schools and private schools. Yeah, right, I have 25 minutes. Universities, colleges, close to the top hospitals in the country, some may even say the world. When you're close to major transportation such as highways, subways, GO Transit, Up Express, the future Ontario line, and the Lake Ontario, the lakefront. All these things are so important to many investors, more so better so renters and buyers. These people compete to be in these areas. They strive to live in these areas. They want to be close to all these amenities because it's so important to them. And they're willing to pay a premium for them. So the key thing is going for the people that appreciate Toronto, that they're willing to live there not only today, but tomorrow, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So we're going to talk about some specific projects and developments in the area that are going to be creating a lot of growth for property values and rental values. Just as Biff in the Back to the Future said, "Don't you get it, kid? This book can tell the future." Well, these projects that we're going to be showing you, they do tell you about the future. So the first one, I love the idea of this project, and it's finally being constructed. I don't know if you ever drive down the DVP, you see the borehole being created there, but the Ontario line is going to have a major impact with investors and property values and rental values. So the only thing that you will have to probably sacrifice is stomaching the construction that's going to happen over the next 6 or more years. It's slated to be completed by 2031. Right. Now, if I had Dalver here, I'd probably be able to reach this, but I can't. Dalver's in the back there, by the way. So the Ontario line, the green section and the blue section, there's certain stations that I'll be referencing later on in this presentation that I highly recommend, and there's very specific reasons for that. So the black line along Pape is the Danforth Bloor line, which we all are familiar with. But the new line, that is going to be a big gold mine. So waterfront redevelopment. Why is this important to us? Well, this has started well over 20 years ago, but the items that I want to highlight, all the yellows, are future developments. The Portlands, Quayside, all these areas are going to have a massive development where actually just recently $1 billion in new funding for waterfront redevelopment, including a plan for 14,000 new homes for 25,000 people. And that's supposed to start construction next year. So, and then hopefully people start moving in by 2031. That's when the Ontario line is supposed to be built. So I'm not suggesting buying in that new construction zone, but around it is where I believe the ripple effect will take place. Another development is the East Harbour development, which is right here. This is the Portland, the Quayside, the new waterfront development. Now, why is this East Harbor development so important? Because it's supposed to create, actually before the slide, there's supposed to be about 100,000 jobs being created for this waterfront development, okay? That's huge. And where are these people gonna be living? I know their work is there, but they're gonna be wanting to live around there. So 100,000 jobs, this East Harbor development is gonna create 50,000 jobs. Both combined are gonna be creating close to 20,000 residential units. Office spaces, parks and green space, all of this stuff. Another view of East Harbor development right here. Right there, the big yellow circle is going to be the East Harbor station for the Ontario line. All this, is it a good idea to invest in this pocket? I would say, if you want to live there, sure. But otherwise, as an investor, what's surrounding it? South Riverdale, Leslieville, Studio District, around that. We've created, there's a lot of pockets that we would recommend, but we narrowed it down to 5 that we're going to talk to you about for specific reasons. And these areas are up and coming with future growth potential. Now, some of these areas you might think, well, that already reached its peak. You think it's going to go up more? Maybe, but we'll show you. This map we created shows you a bit of color coded here. If anyone's colorblind, let me know. But the red squares, okay, those are our prime investment areas. The blue squares are the secondary good investment areas. The purple are primarily condos. The black squares are a bit unaffordable, not worth really investing in. When we talk about each of these neighborhoods now, we're going to be answering these 3 questions for each of those neighborhoods. Why is it worth investing in those areas? How do I make money in this area? And what are the tricks and tips to make money in those areas? Ming's going to talk about the first 2 areas, and I'll jump in for the next 3.
Okay, so this neighborhood here, you guys familiar with the city? This is Dufferin and Bloor. This west side of, I think they now call it Junction, Dovercourt, Wallace, Emerson, worst name ever. This section here, I actually think we have clients in the room who invest in this neighborhood. Why we like it? Close proximity to public transit, right? You're walking distance, no more than about 15 minutes. This matters a lot for tenant profiles. A lot of them don't drive, a lot of them don't have cars. So they want to take public transit. It's going through major gentrification. Other people with lots of money have already done the research and are redeveloping the area, right? You have that huge development happening just at the north end of this, square here. And you've got Dufferin Mall also going through redevelopment. Okay. What works in this area in particular? You're looking at turnkey, triplexes, fourplexes, 4+1s to a little bit of a lesser extent. Because this area is great actually for 4+1s. The challenges are the laneways in this neighborhood. If you're familiar with laneways, we have a speaker this afternoon talking about laneways in particular, but you need a certain amount of access to that laneway. The access to the laneway is not the best in these areas. Young professionals, they like nice stuff, but they're not super picky. It's not like if you're in like the annex or something where you need to definitely provide a much higher finish level, but you are still a condo competitor in this area, so you need to be as nice as a condo. Okay. In general, if you can be west side of Dufferin there, that will be really good, better pricing in that area. There's a fire station though right on Dufferin, so make sure you're not too close to that. Next thing, we'll call this neighborhood St. Clair West. Never heard anybody call it Northcliffe Village or whatever, all those other names up there. St. Clair West. Again, we like this neighborhood because of transit access. It has dedicated streetcar. Dedicated streetcar makes a difference. It's not commingled with traffic. So commingled with traffic is no better than a bus, right? Bus is not real transit, yes.
So I'm familiar with that area, and like the schools in that area aren't the best.
Yes.
The demographic right now is not the best. So
Yes.
are you just investing on something that's going to get gentrified?
So that's very observant. it's blue. So, as we were talking about earlier, the red areas are in and around Dufferin Mall, prime real estate investing. Best tenant profiles, highest rents, but prices are higher too. So your cash flow is going to be a little bit less. Now to your point, Dufferin West, St. Clair West, not as nice, right? A little bit rougher, tenant profiles a little bit less good. Rents are still pretty strong there. Housing prices are quite a bit less. And gentrification is coming. So if you're familiar, there's all these condos that have been popping up along St. Clair, and it's like a cancer. It's spreading west along St. Clair. So that's exactly what we're saying. We want to follow where gentrification is going. So we know it's like nice down Humewood, really nice, right? Some really nice big houses, and it's moving west along here. So this is for a slightly different type of investor, right? Somebody who wants maybe something a little more cash flow forward, is doing a 4+1 conversion, doing condominiumization. This is not as strong as, let's say, for Burr, where you're trying to really lift super high rents. But excellent observation. So you see here, slightly different, slightly less higher paying folks. They're not like bums living out in St. Clair West, but you're thinking more like somebody who's making a creative director's salary as opposed to a data analyst salary, right? So still doing well, still working in good jobs, but not as, let's say, high paying. There's a cemetery there, which I think this is like the gold mine trick. You look out, it doesn't look like a cemetery, it looks like a park, right? So rents are not significantly lower in and around the cemetery, but housing prices are. People don't want to buy there. Now, not to say it won't maybe impact your ability to buy and sell, or maybe it's a bit tougher to rent. It takes a little bit longer, but you can snag a deal if you're close to it. Very specifically though, by the time you get to Rogers Road, it's not nice at all, and it's way too far from transit, so don't go by there.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to jump to the somewhat of an east side here. And so we have South Riverdale around this circle. Remember, I was talking about the Portlands, Lower Donlands, the waterfront redevelopment. Right in here is East Harbor development. That's where you can actually even see the train track that they're going to follow for the Ontario line. That's where the station's going to go, following the 3 stations in Leslieville, East Harbor, Queen, and Gerrard will be key factors here. Again, not investing in the development, but surrounding it. But why? Because in Leslieville, you were never really close to a subway or within 500 meters of a subway. And being close to a subway station is key for people to want to walk there, be willing to walk there, so they can commute to downtown Toronto. You are already so close to downtown core, this is just going to make it that much more attractive. So again, those 3 stations. Now how do you make money in these areas? Because all these houses in this area are like 100+ years old, the Burr method is one of the best strategies to work here. Renovating them, but how do you renovate them? What do you renovate them to become? Well, some of the tips here are exposed brick walls, the lofty styles, the exposed beams, concrete, that's a big factor here. Ceiling heights, wine barrels, rustic cabinets, industrial lighting that creates that wow factor. Polished concrete floors, cathedral ceilings, 3 stories. So if you're unfamiliar with this, get familiar with it, because designers like we have today, they are going to teach you what works in these areas and what doesn't. And this will generate a lot more rent, and your resale value will skyrocket because of these reasons. This location is East York. PAPE, Danforth line is about right here. So that's already a subway line. So why am I choosing this area? Because at Cosborn and PAPE right here is the next station on the Ontario line. But why specifically that station? Why? Well, anything north of Cosborn, people, again, we're a bit too far away to walk to the Danforth subway line. Now, some people are a little bit more ambitious or want to or willing to, sure, go ahead. But majority of people weren't. Therefore, north of that is going to benefit directly from that station. South of that, not so much, because they already had the station to benefit from, which was the Danforth line. Now, how do you make money here? Because it's East York, there's generally lot sizes that are larger. So 25 feet wide by maybe 125 or 120 feet deep. These are perfect for the 4+1 conversions. And I'll even stop right there. That is probably the best way to make money in East York. You can also add walk-up condos in there, which I can't wait to hear Dan's presentation there. And the fifth area is a tougher market, but if you find that gem, you hold on to that, and that will be your one and done. So the red square, as you can tell, it's as close to the water as possible. And the key part about this is, why this area? Well, it's the beach. Everyone loves the beach. Come on, don't tell me that you don't. You all want to be on the beach right now. One of the most popular areas and in-demand areas in all of Toronto. And I believe it always will be. You cannot build any more there. But what there is there's a lot of triplexes, fourplexes, sixplexes, eightplexes, small multifamily homes. And that does work really well there as well. But doing the BRRRR method, yes, but understanding what to renovate, like creating a beach character is huge there. Appreciating basement ceiling height, because the average ceiling height there is about 6 feet. I was walking in an open house with my clients, and we go into this house. It's a beautiful house. We walk into the basement, and it's like, okay, well, I kind of have to duck. I'm about 6'2". My hair, come on. It kept rubbing. That's why I keep going. I work in this area for over 20 years. That's why I don't have hair anymore. I keep rubbing it. But we see this couple come down as we're downstairs, and their response was interesting to see. They're like, nice home. It's just too bad that the basement's not too low, or it's too low. So, it was interesting to hear. We go to the next house, and it happened to be an open house again. Beautiful house again. We go to the basement with my clients, and this place was underpinned. Gorgeous. We're like, natural light flowing in everywhere. Didn't even feel like a basement. Same couple come down. This time their response or their reaction was completely different. It was emotional. They were like, wow, this doesn't feel like a basement at all. This is amazing. And like their response alone was just interesting to hear and see, because that meant something. There's a value to that. How much is that value? Is it 100,000? Is it 200,000? We don't know, but I'll tell you that much is if it was not much more than the other one, guarantee they would have chosen that one. So get comfortable with lowering basements. And there's some excellent contractors in this room. You'll hear from some of them, but understand it and know that it's not that difficult. So we talked about location. We're gonna jump to tenant profiles and what we look for with tenant profiles. So we look for tenants who are willing and able to pay premium and high rents for quality housing. Tenants that look for the prestige of the location. They look for the lifestyle. They look to be close to everything that Toronto has to offer. Who are some of these tenants? Well, some of them have been professors, lawyers, designers, marketing, tech people, AI skill sets. A lot of our tenant profiles that we have candidates who are applying, we're like, wow, like why are they even renting? They're making each of them minimum $100,000 a year. Combined, they're making over $200,000 as a couple or as a family. Why aren't they buying? Well, there's many reasons why people rent. One of the most common ones is divorce. A lot of separations happen, so they don't want to move away from their children or their former spouse, so they want to live close by. So they'll rent something that is close enough so they have easy access to their family. Other ones are they're scoping out the area. They don't want to buy right away. A lot of immigrants do that, and we all know we have a lot of immigration here. So there's always reasons. Contract work, they're renovating. They have to live at a place for 1 year before they can move in, so they rent a place. One of the most, I guess, expensive tenant that I've ever had was the VP of TD. She was renting, again, I get her application, like, okay, well, great, so wow, T4 or NOA. Well, 800,000. Wow, that's incredible. I was like, so I would like to call your boss to verify. She's like, okay, you can call my cell phone if you want. No one's really, I'm gonna answer, I'm gonna tell you I make that. So she was the boss, like, but why is she renting? Yeah, she got separated. Another person, it was a roofer. He was earning $600,000 a year renting. Again, separation. We had a YouTuber, influencer. You should have seen this person's videos. Like, it was like, it was boring, more boring than this. I should be a comedian, right? Thank you for laughing, I appreciate it. But this guy was 19 years old. So some of the tenant profiles are incredible. Yes.
I just wanted to ask that, a lot of the contractors can still claim it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, so she said all the workers that are coming in for all these development projects, they're not coming in from the area, so they need a place to live as well. So they might not want to buy right away. So why do I put this thing up? Is to show you the vacancy rate? Well, yes, that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is, when you read vacancy rates in the news or articles, find out what exactly they're actually measuring. Here, it's purpose-built rentals. Those are apartment buildings. We don't deal with apartment building rentals. We deal with a secondary market, which is the duplex, triplex, the smaller in-house boutique style investment properties. Those are completely different. And if you ask any one of our clients what their vacancy rate is, I'll bet you anybody it's a lot lower than 2.5%. Yes? Oh, do I? Oh, sorry, man. Oh, thank you. Okay, according to BNN Bloomberg, so lots of tech-related growth in Toronto, which means very well-paying jobs. Some of the examples of these offices that are in Toronto: Instacart, Uber, Pinterest, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon, AI-influenced jobs. I'm gonna speed up a little bit now.
Well, what I was thinking is we have two case studies.
Yes?
Maybe what we can do is focus on one of them, and we can send out the second one to people.
Certainly, yep. Yes?
I have a question about the tenant profile.
Yes.
Into like in terms of unit layout, like this, what's smaller units, one bed, because if the tenants that are like getting divorced or single, like does that mean smaller units are better, or is it more like families?
No, the examples that I gave for the divorcees, one rented a single family home, a whole single family home, I guess because she had her kids partly, and then so they wanted the space. The other gentleman who had the roofer, he had a 2-bedroom. The YouTuber is a single guy. But divorcees, if you want the bachelors in the 1-bedrooms, you're probably gonna have more turnover. And it'll likely happen every year, maybe 2. But if you get to the larger units, you're attracting families or larger, groups of people. They tend to stay a little bit longer, from our experience. So if there's a family, they typically stay for 2 to 4 years, has been our average. Yes. Yeah, sharing has been a lot more common these days because of rents prices have gone up. So if you have a 2-bedroom, you might see roommates, or you might even see 4 people, like 2 and 2, like 2 couples sharing a room, or even students. Like.
Could we speak about parking spaces as well? Like,
Yep.
is it necessary to get parking spaces?
Absolutely, that was one of the things right here. So, can I touch it on here? So these are the renovations and features that I believe have the most emotional impact and biggest ROI in select pockets in Toronto. This is what people will pay for a premium for and rent for a premium. This is getting to know your tenants and buyers better. This is so important. I can get into a whole workshop on this alone. I will just briefly touch on a couple things. To answer your question, parking is important. More so for the higher tenant profile demographic, because they typically have more expensive cars and they want to have a designated parking spot for it. They don't want us parked on the street where they can get scratched or hit or snow plowed, you name it. And it actually does add. We charge at least $100 per parking spot in our spots.
But like, for example, 4+1 conversions.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sacrifice space.
Absolutely. So that's why it's important to invest in those 4+1 condos close to transportation. And I'm not talking about the bus, I'm talking about subways or GO trains.
Just to touch quickly on your first point around sizing, you're essentially going up against condos, right? So what can you offer that a condo can't? Space is definitely one of them. Because per square foot space is a lot easier to do in a 4+1 versus a condo. So that's something, right? It's all those like little things that you can do, outdoor areas which separate you, and you attract those people who are not gonna look to rent a condo, but instead look to rent your property.
Thinking about another question, which is just like when you like you said about rents fall, on the rent fall,
Yep.
How do these purpose built 4+1s or duplex practice turn into property rentals? How do they compare to condo rent? Because I know that condo rent will fall.
So can
It feels like it's definitely better, but I don't have to make it after that.
can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Ming did mention that our competition is the condo market, but not necessarily. When we get into the customized built triplexes, the boutique style, I'm not talking about they resemble condos, because they don't. Condo living is a completely different lifestyle. These types of properties that we're talking about, the turnkey triplex, 4+1s, they're not. You have a backyard. You're not in concrete jungle. You're right across the street is a park. You're in a neighborhood, not a concrete jungle. So it's very different. That's why it's important to also emphasize on storage space, on outdoor space, because that's what these types of properties offer. Now, the larger you get, 4+1s, they can resemble condos at times. They can. But that's why I do highly recommend, really strategizing with a designer or the right architect to create these places that are much better and more desirable. I was going to answer another one of your questions, but let me just. Yeah. Okay. No, we're not gonna. No. Anyways, one more thing. Professional paint job. I have to mention this. When you're re-renting your place, you have turnover. Don't just go there and slap a coat of paint over the light switches and door hinges and say, yeah, freshly painted. That sucks. And if the quality tenant profiles are gonna recognize that, please don't do that. Get it professionally painted. And now we're gonna get into the team. You're running a business as an investor, you're the CEO, you need to establish your right team, okay? I'm gonna fly through this. These are some of your team members. I wanna know, there's a lot of team members in here already. There's contractors, there's Peter Glaw, there's the designers, there's Gabby, there's HVAC people, Lucas, there's contractors, there's all sorts of, there's tax accountants. You're gonna hear from these people today. So the key thing that I wanna mention, one of the most important that I've experienced was the people in this room, the fellow investors. They are gonna be able to tell you their experiences and share their context and share their stories, which is so important. But just remember, don't just hire your Uncle Joe because he's your family. Make sure that your family or whoever you're hiring is an investment specialist, that they understand all the stuff that we're talking about. They understand cap rates, they understand rentals, tenant profiles, the streets, the good, the bad, the ugly. You have to make sure that they understand that. Otherwise, you'll be like me. When I first started, I went through 6 different realtors in 6 months. All of them said to me, of course we deal with investment properties. Sure. They would send them to me, I'd go there, and be like, okay, so what do you do? Oh, you rent it out. None of them cash flowed. I saw over 100 properties in 6 months, none of them cash flowed. So, because they just wanted the business, make sure you do your due diligence, create the right team. And if you don't know the right team, ask other people. Ask people in this room, talk to these people. We talked about location, tenant profile, and your team. This one is a turnkey triplex. It's categorized, remember how we had this matrix? It's the turnkey small multifamily. It was in Little India, Coxwell and Gerrard. This is some pictures that we took of it. It's done very nicely. The numbers, we sold it for 1.555. Down payment, land transfer tax. The total equity, total capital required to buy it was $368,000. The cash flow, rents, the expenses, all the utilities were covered by the tenants. That is something that we highly recommend. Don't, as a landlord, ever take on those utilities. Cash flow is about close to $1,000. Now, this does not include vacancy allowance or repairs and maintenance. You want to tack those on. We use a conservative appreciation of 4% per year. And the cap rate for this one is 5.61. As Ming said, for Toronto, if you're above 5, it's a pretty good deal. So this was a good deal. Your first rental year return for cash flow was 11,000, principal pay down. Total rental return was about 8.7%. When we factor in the 4% speculative appreciation there, it adds another 16.9, and a total first year return of 25%. Any questions on that? I flew that, sorry guys, we are running a little time, that's why.
We'll have the details sent out on the second case to everybody as well.
The second case is an off-market opportunity that is similar to the one that I just showed you, so if you guys want to talk about that, we can go through that. We can also send it to you as well. All right, now for our speakers. Thank you everyone, thank you.